Hey y'all, Terry here with another Recliner Reflections, and hope you guys are having a good day. The dogs were asleep around me. Now they're kind of up and moving around, but they're going to settle down for their pre-lunch nap, I think, and then we'll they'll be up and wanting a treat again here in a little bit, I'm sure. But anyway, so if you hear any noise in the background, that's usually what it is. It's one of the dogs moving around or the dog door going up. There went Preston. And yep, he's going outside. That's the dog door. Um, anyway, uh, the last video that I did, I was talking about doing the right thing. And a little bit of that, I talked about being patient. And it's kind of funny how things work because this morning I had the TV on. And by the way, before I say this part, I want to let you know this is not a sermon. I'm not going to get biblical and Bible thumping on you. So just don't turn me off if you think that's coming because of this. But I love Dr. Charles Stanley. I think he's a man of God. I think he's a wonderful guy. In Touch Ministries, I watch periodically. I won't say that I watch him all the time, but when I do, I love to hear him speak. And this morning, I caught his sermon, and 30 minutes of your time on a Sunday morning is worth it just to listen to him sometime. But he was talking about waiting on God and patience. And part of his sermon, he mentioned several times doing the right thing. And I thought, wow, how ironic that I was talking about in the video just a day or two ago, and now he's talking about it on TV. I'm sure it's recorded last week or whatever, but it was just kind of funny how that came about. So it really brought to mind something that I wanted to talk about, and that's patience. I work in the technical, the internet, the information technology. I'll get it out in a minute. The information technology field with electronic health records. So I work for medical companies. I work for hospitals, basically, and I travel a lot for that. I'm on an airplane quite a bit at times. I haven't been in a while, but there are times when it's every week. I'm on an airplane, twice a week, actually. So that is someplace that if you want to see people who are impatient, that's one place you can go and see impatient people. Rarely do I go. I fly Delta a lot, so I go through Atlanta quite a bit, and so I'm in the Atlanta airport. It's very rare if I'm at Atlanta airport that I don't see at least one person, if not several people, running to catch a plane. They got to get there. They got to get there. They got to catch that plane. And they're impatient. We live in a world that is fast paced, that is get it done now, go, go, go kind of thing. We're all busy. And it's sad in a way that we've gotten to that point, and it's good probably in some ways too. But at the same time, we've kind of lost the idea of having patience. Um, I, and there are times. Let me say this: there are times where we don't need to have patience. Um, for instance, my job, I work on the revenue side of the hospital. In other words, the money side, charges and billing and all of that good stuff. Whereas my wife is a nurse, and she works on the clinical side. She works on, she's patient care. She's a nurse. She's taking care of people and making sure that they get well and don't die and that kind of thing. And she used to work in an ER, and so I'm very familiar with that whole process. And part of that process, of course, is when you go into the ER, the first thing to do is do what's called a triage. And triage, of course, if you don't know what the term means, basically it's just they evaluate your situation. And it's kind of based on, my wife has the saying, I think it's bleeding, broken, or dying, then we'll get you right in. They rush you in. I've been in the ER at times that they looked at me and went, "Yeah, get back here." But if you walk in with the sniffles and say, "Yeah, man, I don't feel good," and okay, you're going to wait, because we have other patients that we're having to deal with, and so on and so forth. In those situations, though, where that person is bleeding, or that person's having a heart attack, or that person is, in dire straits, there is a need to be in a hurry. And thank God that we have an educational system for our medical staff, our doctors, nurses, EMTs, paramedics, so on and so forth, all the guys in the medical field on that clinical side. Thank God we have a educational system and training system where they can think quickly and think on their feet and react very quickly, because it saves lives. And we have the technology too, by the way, that does help. But the knowledge that they have, the immense amount of knowledge that some of these doctors and nurses, by the way, nurses, thank God for nurses, because they keep doctors from killing you, is the saying, and that's very true. I've seen that several times. But they have to react. They have to react very quickly. If you're having an allergic reaction to a medication, there's little time to react, and you got to do something, and you got to do it now. So you can't stop and go, "Well, I really need to, I want a coffee break, I want a snack," or something. You got to go. You got to take care of that patient. But in most of our lives, that's not that important. It's not that important. It's not life and death. I've had times where I've been traveling and I have looked at my watch, and I get anxious. I get anxious just like everybody else. And I've looked at my watch and thought, I'm not going to make my connecting flight. Oh man, I'm going to have to spend the night in Atlanta if they don't hurry up and get. But I also stop and think, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is I spend a night in a hotel room in Atlanta, and I get home or I get to work the next day. That's the worst that can happen. If the flight delay causes me to miss my connection, kind of thing, or the flight delay causes me not to get wherever I'm going, that's the worst that can happen. I spend the night in Atlanta, or I spend another night in Virginia, where I'm working right now, or I spend another night at home, and that's kind of like, well, at least I sleep in my own bed and get up early in the morning and catch the airplane and get out. But we don't do that. In most of our lives, we react because we're under such pressure. We're under pressure from work. We're under pressure from from everything. We're under pressure from so many sides that we just react without thinking so many times. And I have tried in my life to do one thing constantly when things start coming up. Questions come up, moments where I need to or have an opportunity to react to something. I try to stop at least for a second or two and think, what's the worst thing that can happen if I don't do this right now? And not to say that I won't go ahead and do it right then, but it gives me some inner peace to know that I don't have to be so anxious about this. I've seen people who, because of a fax that wasn't coming through, or an email that they're waiting on, or something like that, they are biting their fingernails, they're pacing, they're uncontrollably trembling in some manner. They're sweating. They're having an anxiety attack over an email that's not coming through for them. And once they get it, they're so relieved. And you look at it and it was like, okay, that email being 15 minutes late, 15 minutes after they started getting anxious, nobody died. Didn't really cause any major damage to anything. So what I'm trying to get at with all this is, why do we have to be so rush all the time? And again, I understand. We need to be productive. We need to do our job. And I'll tell you that right now. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is that when you have a job, and especially if you have a job where you are supposed to be, you're on the clock and you have a schedule that you are supposed to be there at 6:30, 4 a.m., 9 o'clock, 11 p.m., whatever it is. I don't care. But if you have a schedule where you're supposed to be there at that time, I am adamant about you need to be there on time. I am very, very, very rarely late. Now, in my job now, I have the luxury of, I really don't have a set, I have to be there at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever. But I have in my mind a time schedule that says I want to be there, I want to be on my computer, I want to be whatever at a certain time. And I do everything I can to be there at that time. And very rarely am I not. Now, there are extenuating circumstances, just like if you drive to work, a flat tire. You can't help that. But at least you made the effort to get there on time. And that's the thing. If we make, there are two factors here. Is number one, your attitude. Your attitude needs to change a little bit in that you need to try to be a little more patient about things and have that second or two decision-making moment to go, is this the right thing? And what's going to happen if I don't get this accomplished right this minute, if I don't start right now? And the other one is to have that attitude. The attitude of, I want to do my best. I want to be on time. I want to get things done as quickly and as productively as possible. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you have time enough to spend with your kids and your family and your loved ones and your friends and any other people that in your lives that you need to spend time with. You need to spend time with them, because that's as important as anything. And that's going to take patience. I'll tell you one more thing about it, one little other story about that. I've had several situations where I've had medical issues and so on and so forth, and the bills start piling up, and I start getting anxious about, I don't have money coming in, and what little is coming in is I don't have enough to pay my bills and so on and so forth. And you know what? Everything has always been, something has come through. And the money has come, the bills have gotten paid, and life is going on. I'm still alive. I'm still getting to watch my dog sleep. I'm still here. I got through it. So when you start getting anxious about something, just take a moment and stop and say, is it worth it to be this anxious? Let me think about, what's the worst that can happen? Okay? Let's all be as patient as Maggie over there. Maggie is well into her nap now. So let's all have the patience of, well, not quite the patience of Maggie. She has a little too much patience, but let's be a little more patient in our lives. If you like this video and the others, please like my page. Please share the video. Get your friends and neighbors and family and everybody to join my page and help promote it. Be great appreciated about that if you do that. And by the way, read your Bible, pray, and go fishing. All right, later guys.